Hey everyone, welcome back to Corporate Decoder, the place where we decode corporate filings. Today we are going to dissect a filing from X, a company that makes electric vehicles. Get ready because this report has a few twists, especially when we look at executive pay and some interesting deals that fell through. It might feel like riding an electric scooter with a sputtering battery. First things first, this isn't their main annual report. It's an amendment, like a correction to their original report. They had to add some info they missed the first time around about who's on the board and how much the executives get paid. We are covering the year 2024. Let's look at who is steering the ship at HOSAC. Dakota Semler is the Chief Executive Officer and also the Chair of the Board. Giordano Sordoni is the Chief Operating Officer and also a Director. Leona Pogoshin is the Acting Chief Financial Officer. They also have a bunch of other directors on the board. For example, Georgen Matson, who is also the Chief Executive Officer of Wheels Up Experience Inc. It's important that these board members are independent, meaning they aren't too cozy with the company's management. The board has determined that most of the directors are independent, which is a good thing for keeping things fair and balanced. In 2024, the board met 13 times and also made some decisions. Without meeting in person on 4 occasions, they are required to have some meetings of just the independent directors, and they had 3 of those in 2024. The board is also split into committees, like the Audit Committee, which makes sure the financials are correct. It includes Luisa Ingagiola, who also serves as a director for Dragonfly Energy Holdings, Corp, Vision Marine Technologies, and BioCoarks Inc. There is also a compensation committee that decides how much the executives get paid. It's made up of independent directors, which should help keep executive pay in check. This compensation committee hired Meridian LL as its independent compensation consultant to look at their executive and director compensation arrangements. The company also has rules about trading stock to prevent insider trading. Directors, officers, and employees aren't allowed to do things like short sales or hedging their stock, which are bets that the stock will go down. Now let's get to the good stuff. Executive compensation. Here we see how much the top people at SOS are making. This table shows the salary, stock awards, bonuses, and other compensation for the top executives. For example, Dakota Semler, the CEO, made about $2.7 million in 2024. It includes a salary of about $392,000, a big chunk of stock awards worth over $206,000, and other compensation. Giordano Sordoni, the Chief Operating Officer, made about $2.4 million, also with a salary around $346,000 and stock awards as the main contributor. Chris Romero, who was the General Counsel, made about $1.4 million, but it's important to note that these numbers include stock awards, which don't always translate to cash right away. The CEO, Dakota Semler, took a 50% pay cut along with the CRO to help save the company money, and Chris Romero took a 20% pay cut. Here we can see the company set some targets for the executives based on operating cash flow, revenue, gross margin, and unit deliveries. This details the target amount and actual payout for each of the named executive officers. Dakota Semler, the CEO, had a target of $425,000 but only received about $58,000. Let's switch to the compensation for the directors. They get cash retainers for serving on the board and its committees, and they also get stock awards. Here we see the compensation of the non-employee directors. George Matson, for example, got fees and stock awards that added up to about $227,000. Now let's look at who owns the most stock in O's. This is important because it tells us who has the most influence over the company. This table shows the beneficial ownership of the company's shares. The biggest individual owner appears to be Giordano Sordoni with 11.6%. It seems Emerald Green Trust owns a substantial chunk, over 22% of the company. Companies have to disclose any deals they do with related parties like executives or major shareholders. It looks like Exo's had a few of these transactions. Exo sold some of their hub vehicles to Xcel Energy. It is important to remember that one of OSOS's directors, Alice Jackson, worked at Xcel Energy, so it's important that the audit committee review it in the best interests of the shareholders, which they did. There was a deal with Aljamai Automotive Co. where Exo sold them a convertible promissory note. Basically, Aljamai loaned Exo's money that could be converted into stock. Finally, let's take a look at the fees paid to the company's accountant. Grant Thornton L was the independent accounting firm. In 2024, they were paid about $687,000 for their services. For all the official documents and contracts, you can find that listed here. These are the exhibits to the 10K filling. Now, let's step back and look at the big picture here. Exo is in a tough spot. Their executives took pay cuts and some potential deals like merging with Electromechanica fell apart. It appears that their strategy is focused on survival and maintaining relationships. They are managing expenses, but there are many risks related to raising additional capital, and those types of transactions often come at unfavorable terms. But if they can navigate these challenges, maybe Accession can deliver on its promise to create electric vehicles and deliver solid financial performance. That's it for today's Corporate Decoder. If you found this video helpful, please like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.